introducing the guests who are going to join us this morning for that particular conversation. But you can already get started online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. I am at Kiage Simba. Once we come back, the big conversation.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
What about mambo fantastic even not scholastic? Chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket imerudi. Ukifanya tu shopping ya shilingi 1000, wewe unaingia kwa promotion ya chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket. Watu wanaendelea kushinda ndani ya Hetia Supermarket. Mwana tata kitoko. Wewe na umeshinda
nini? Yote. Hasa nalala.
Karibu ndani ya Hetia Supermarket uweze kuchota kwa wingi kabisa. Watu huko wanasema nini? Nakwambia kwamba chota kuchota. Unangoja nini?
Magari 7 za kushindaniwa, TV, fridge, microwave, shopping vouchers, school fees vouchers, instant prizes na zawadi zingine kemkem. Chota kuchota imethaminiwa na Hetia's Oven Fresh Bakery, Gigabyte, Mount Kenya Milk, Clover's Food Products, Velvet, Magic Drink, Pwani Oil, Arenco, Fruit Juice, Master Chef, Toilex, Coolsip, Mika, Wash Ultra, Philos, Prestol, Nivea, My Choice, Ushindi, Fresh Fry, Arimis Jelly, Cabernet Water, Dettol, Ketepa, Meta, Glucose, Coca-Cola, Rosy Tissue, Big Giant, Elbins, Unilever, Fresh, Unga wa Dola, Blue Band na Pasta Star. Shindano la chota kuchota linaanza tarehe 1 Disemba hadi tarehe 10 Februari mwaka 2024.
Hetia Supermarket, a world of choice.
Tere, mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani wani vile wewe anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe.
Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time, hata angalia barabara.
Wewe dereva wewe, mwaka iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 3000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, nitamtafuta vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
As the night falls, we come to life to bring you a comprehensive broadcast from the numerous events happening across our 47 counties.
When it breaks, it matters, and each story is important.
If it's Thursday, join me, Nancy Lima, and my able panelists as we break down the law jargons and analyze the Constitution in a way only you can understand.
The news cycle never stops, neither does time. We cover each and every sector and present to you factual and accurate occurrences. This is where facts win the day. Join me,
Nancy Lima,
Ian Keitani, Tuesday, every Wednesday,
Thursday,
as from 9 p.m. on The Insight, only on Lookuptv.
mali na Manjoro. Kumbuka hapa ndipo unajifunza mambo mengi kuhusu ukulima. Kilimo ni uti wa mgongo wa nchi, na ukiwa na Njoro unajifunza. Kumbuka, angalia mwenyewe. Tunakuambia ukitaka kujua tips za ukulima, ungana na sisi kwenye Lookuptv every Sunday. Unatukuta pale saa 10. Tunakuonesha kuhusu ukulima, ukulima wa mimea, ukulima wa ng'ombe, ukulima wa kuku, ukulima wa mbuzi na yote ambayo yanahusiana na ukulima. Kumbuka nini? Kipindi ni Ukulima ni Mali.
So much to talk about this morning. But just a quick update, I'm going to mention about it this morning on a big conversation, is that the ladies and gentlemen at the Ministry of Health are working around the clock to make sure that all those recommendations were essentially considered by the High Court when they were essentially looking at that particular case for Chief are done and dusted, so that if indeed they're done with drafting that particular document by the end of this week, then they're quite sure that by the end of this January, when you're going to get paid, the 2.75% deduction out of your pay slip is going to reflect this February. That's essentially meaning this January. So we speed it up very fast so that now that particular deduction may begin. We're going to talk about that, and that comes on the back of the court's ruling in a week or in a month when the only thing that we've been treated with is the judiciary and the executive essentially putting each other on the spot over the way either side is handling their matters that are touching on both sides. All right, this morning we're going to move away from that and look at exactly shortly then, because we're going to come back and talk about it and talk about what we're waking up to this morning. We do know that Raila Amolo Odinga has called on a meeting that is going to talk about the state of ODM and talk about the 2027 politics, succession politics, because Kalonzo has been speaking, and also that April deadline for the grassroots elections within the UDA coalition are going to take place. And so far, one man has been speaking. That is one Rigathi Gachagua. And for the very first time, he's essentially told us exactly what's going on within that particular party. If you go back to the Standard this morning, there's a particular headline there that is going to grab your attention. And they're talking about how Gachagua is now blaming just a couple of people on his woes within the Mount Kenya region. Remember, last year he said he's not entrusted with kingpinship politics in Mount Kenya, but this time around he's come out to declare that he's the kingpin in Mount Kenya, and one man, Nderi Nyoro, by the way, who 15 members of parliament within that particular party have supported for 2027, he's told him, shut up, young man. It is time for you to allow for me to lead. That's why we begin this morning. All right, let me introduce Prof. and Edward. You do know them so far now. And Edward, I'd like to begin with you.
Thank you.
Let me begin like this.
Sure.
It is two statements from Rigathi Gachagua. If you listen to him last year,
yes,
he said, I'm not interested with these issues of who's the kingpin in the Mount Kenya region. I mean, I'm here to support the president's agenda. And during that period when he was talking about this, that's when we were approaching the December grassroots elections within UDA. They were postponed. What we learned on the ground is that there was so much division within that particular coalition on, number one, the party constitution that essentially states that 2 deputies need to be picked. And so they looked at it and said, if you have 2 deputies, then you're giving the president the leeway to pick either and come up with an excuse on why probably either of them has been picked. There were a lot of politics on the ground which led to the cancellation or postponement of those planned December grassroots elections. Now, it is just 2 months away, And we've seen those politics. 15 members of parliament within that particular party have come in and said, you see this guy called Ndini Nyoro, for us, we support him for the 2027 presidential elections. Regarding Gachagua, a man who has been silent on those kingship politics, has come in and told Ndini Nyoro to shut up. He is the kingpin in Mount Kenya. Let's talk about that.
Indeed, thank you very much for hosting me once again. It's always a pleasure to be at Lookuptv, the biggest show in Kenya.
Happy to have you around, man.
Thank you. So going to the issue on regarding Gachagua, indeed, politics is something that has to be taken seriously. And Mount Kenya politics is a serious thing, especially right now, coming from a part where we had Uhuru Kenyatta, and he was such a big figure within the region. Then there is a vacuum that has been left. However, that vacuum is not a real vacuum, because we go by who is the highest person in the leadership, in the national structure. And currently, the top person who holds the highest seat in the country is the deputy president, who is the second in command. And to us in Mount Kenya, that is who our leader is. And we don't even need to discuss about it. In fact, it's very premature for such discussions to be going on 1.5 years into the leadership of the UDA government. And Mount Kenya now is starting to bring this discussion. However, it also shows you that the democratic space in Mount Kenya is existent, and that people can come up with their own ideas and can try and, choose who they want, but, which is a democratic right. However, I do believe it's premature, and this should not be happening. And if you heard very well what the deputy president said, he said people in Mount Kenya are intelligent enough to figure out what games are beginning to be played, because I haven't seen anything of gross misconduct or any fact that anybody can bring forward to point out what Rigathi has done wrong.
Yes.
In fact, I think Rigathi has really performed well. As a politician, he has stood by his king, his master, his president. He has defended him left, right, and center. Let me tell you, we should be thanking Rigathi Gachagua, because dealing with the enigma of Raila Odinga, and you can remember a time like this last year where Raila Odinga was issuing threats of maandamano. It was Rigathi Gachagua who really stood up strong, because and he really stood up politically against those moves that the opposition was making. And indeed, eventually you saw that they came and had a discussion and dialogued and talked about it, and the maandamano ended. We should be thanking Rigathi Gachagua, because if you have a weak deputy president, then it weakens the presidency. So Rigathi Gachagua has been strong enough. Secondly, if you're looking at what Rigathi Gachagua is trying to do, Mount Kenya does not have minerals, so as much as we know. Mount Kenya relies heavily on tea, coffee, and other cash crops. So Rigathi Gachagua's duty is to ensure that those cash crops in that region are looked after, and the economy of the region comes back to level. And this is what he's been doing. I mean, if people were fighting about what he's done or what is not done, that would be an issue.
Yes.
Secondly, I feel that I have not had Ndini Nyoro, Mheshimiwa Ndini Nyoro of Kiharu, very well, good performing MP. If you look at his constituency, I mean, if you look at the education sector, if you look at the issues of roads and development, he has been at the forefront and he's performing. His CDF is one of the best, is top 10 in the country, if not top 5. Therefore, Ndini Nyoro is a good leader. He's an upcoming leader. He's the chairman of budget in the parliament. So therefore, he has the capacity. But I have not had Ndini Nyoro come himself in public. If he said it, I have not had it myself. And therefore, these stories of the 15 MPs coming up and saying their leader in 2027 is Ndini Nyoro is like trying to say, you have a wife and you know she's going to get a boy child in 5 years and you haven't even slept with her.
Yes.
So it's premature, and you can see even what is happening now with this discussion. The people in Kirinyaga also now are coming up and trying to say that Anne Waiguru should also be the deputy president. All this should end. And I expect His Excellency the President to sound the bell And because he's the leader of all regions, even in Mount Kenya, he's the kingpin really of the country. He should stamp his feet and call for a parliamentary group meeting and tell those MPs who are bringing politics right now, when when Mount Kenya people are crying of hunger, are crying of no money in their pockets, that's what they should be discussing, not discussing about Rigathi Gachagua in 2027.
That's it.
Yes.
But just before I cross over to Prof this morning, Prof, if we may indulge it just a little bit.
Yes.
I mean, when you look at how the events have unfolded up to where we are right now, I mean, it's not the very first time that Mount Kenya leaders are standing to defend Rigathi Gachagua. If you go back last year, I've sat here in this studio and spoken about maybe 5 or 6 times where a couple of Mount Kenya leaders are feeling like Rigathi Gachagua is essentially getting pushed out of this particular leadership, all the way from even his roles getting changed. The people feel that right now, as it stands, Musalia Mudavadi has got I'll say supremo roles than Rigathi Gachagua. I mean, when you have leaders coming out to defend Rigathi Gachagua, is it okay for us to ask why? Because you only defend somebody who's in a problem or is in a situation when you feel that somebody needs defending. And for the very first time as well, the name Ndidi Nyoro has come out of Rigathi Gachagua's mouth. So we can't sit here and say, well, it's not something that is brewing in the background. It's confirmed it. Yes, yes. Last year, it was just fears about Ndidi Nyoro's touch-up within that particular party. Now, for the very first time, Rigathi Gachagua has spoken about it. And I can quote him verbatim. He told him, ambia Ndidi Nyoro anyamaze. Mimi ndio kiongozi wa Mount Kenya. So can't we see what is going to defend it upon?
Indeed, truth be told,
yes.
There's something brewing, of course. This noise that is coming up is not just from thin air. And indeed, we know Mount Kenya is a very important factor. 47% of the votes that UDA President William RUTO got, 47% from Mount Kenya.
Does it?
So they have a big contribution. And indeed, it's right for them to feel sometimes that they can demand for more. However, you have to also remember Kenya is not Mount Kenya. Kenya is a whole country with a lot of people. There are 47 counties. There are other regions that the president and the deputy who took an oath of office as well. You know, he did not take an oath of office for Mount Kenya. He took an oath of office for Kenya. So therefore, I feel that once again, it's premature for us to be discussing this at this stage. However, the wise man will always say, it's good to also, Rigathi Gachagua should also sit back a bit and try and listen to other people and see if it's his style of leadership that people are complaining about, or if it's something that he needs to approach differently. He needs to do it sooner rather than later. Because he's a leader. He's the person who's supposed to get Ndidi Nyoro on the table, get all these other leaders on the table, and let them talk openly and say these are the issues, because one thing that can destroy leadership is resentment. And if somebody begins to resent you, it brings bitterness. And in politics, bitterness means betrayal and backstabbing and scheming to bring someone down. And that is not what we want for Rigathi Gachagua. That is not what we want for the Mount Kenya leadership. We want development in Mount Kenya, and we call upon all people of Mount Kenya to stand behind the deputy president and the president so that they can deliver for our region like all other regions. And just to touch on the issue about Mudavadi, indeed Mudavadi played his role in terms of bringing the Luhya community, and he's continued to play his role.
Yes.
And the president, in his wisdom, giving him a ministry was in his wisdom, because remember, Mudavadi is a leader who has been in leadership for many years. In fact, if I'm not wrong, Professor, Mudavadi is the most experienced in this government today. He's after William Ruto, yes. You can see they've been together. They're almost the same age. Mudavadi is just a bit older than him. So he comes with the impetus into the foreign affairs. Let's not make politics out of everything.
Jaza?
Yes.
I'll be coming back to you, because a couple of statements that have come from leaders, and I'll be reading that particular submission so we can see exactly what is brewing in the background. Prof, I remember last year we spoke about this particular issue, and I'm going to ask candidly from this direction. If you look at the constitution of UDA, the leaders who want it changed. In fact, if you look at some of the top reasons as to why the December grassroots elections didn't happen, is because now for the very first time, when there is a stake to be gone for, if I may put it like that, people realized, so there are 2 deputies here, and our constitution, our party constitution says that we need 2 deputies. People said, no, change it. Let's have 1 deputy, so that we do not give the president the leeway to say, you see, I picked you in the last election, so now for democracy within the party, I'll pick the next one. People just want to have 1 leader. In fact, majority of those leaders said, let our party constitution reflect the national constitution in terms of leadership. So people looked at it, we said the elections were going to happen as predicted. Majority of people say, well, it's premature with all these concerns right now, because this talk about the position of Rigathi Gachagua in UDA started last year, immediately after the election. Well, it was postponed. Now, Ndindi Nyoro's name is not only coming from within members of parliament within our party. This weekend, it came from the man himself, Rigathi Gachagua. So you can actually see. And then last week, 15 members of parliament stand up and say, well, for us, it is going to be Ndindi Nyoro. Is it true now that we can see exactly what the fight was about from the get-go? And I'm going to ask like this: losing Rigathi Gachagua, would it be a big issue for one president, Dr. William Ruto, in 2027?
Yeah, thank you very much, Simba, for having me this morning, and for my brother Githaiga here. I first of all want to say that it's unfortunate, like just before I make my comment, it's unfortunate that this morning is about Raila speaking about the position of ODM, and where ODM is going and the future, and the story about Kalonzo and himself. Then again here, Ndindi Nyoro, Gachagua, William Ruto. Let me tell you what do Kenyans really want to hear about? Kenyans want to hear about the cost of living. Unga, fuel, oil. These are the issues, my brother. I'm saying it's unfortunate, but the truth is, they say it is what it is. That shows you that we lack economic leadership in this country, because Ndindi Nyoro should be discussing about the economic thinking for Mount Kenya that is bringing, rather than Rigathi Gachagua. Yes. And Rigathi Gachagua should not discuss about Ndindi Nyoro. Should be discussing about what Mount Kenya people really need. Look at the situation here. The poverty level is rising in Mount Kenya. The desperate level among youth, among girls, among boys. What is the transition from Mount Kenya children to university education? Those are the issues that real leaders should be discussing, not about saying who is the kingpin. What is a kingpin? Is there any position in the constitution called kingpin? I don't know that position anywhere. But I'm believing that a leader who will lead his people out of this poverty to the promised land is the leader. And the issues are cost of living, cost of unga, cost of fuel, and the rest. And I think Raila Odinga has even disappointed me a little bit as one of the persons who were really supporting the 2022 election. Because after the election that was lost, unfortunately, maybe he didn't lose it. Whatever circumstances were, is that we still don't believe as azimio that this election was lost. This election had so many things to explain it. And that's why we went to Mandamano. People died. He goes back to start doing grassroots drive for ODM to join, for members to join ODM. What is the main issue deserving Luos? Deserving his supporters. Yes. He's going to Coast Province to declare what is the challenge befalling coastal people. In Luo Nyanza, there's kids who got D's. In the whole school, kids got D's. There's a school where the E's were more than A's. These are the main issues. Why? It's because of the education infrastructure, probably. It could also mean that people in Luo Nyanza cannot even afford their own education. There are schools, yes, but Luos cannot afford. So they're getting foreigners, getting those schools and beating them there. Because in Rivers, for example, the leading person in Luo Nyanza has always made Kisi from a school in Luo Nyanza. These are the issues Luos should be discussing, because people have been saying Luos are very intelligent. But intelligence is useless if you cannot be in a classroom. You cannot be intelligent outside the classroom. Intelligence is also important when you are in the classroom, when you can learn and progress academically. For me, I'm thinking these are the main issues the nation should be discussing.
Yes.
Unfortunately, this is not the case. But now, going to your point, let me tell you what, Simba. The problem about who is the Supremo for Mount Kenya did not begin after the election. It was actually there before the election. And let's give you the facts. In Karen, when they were deciding who was going to be the running mate for William Ruto, it was Kindiki versus Gachagua.
Yes.
So what has Kindiki done that now he's not being mentioned as the second? Because Kindiki comes from Mount Kenya too, isn't it? Mm. So that's a question you have to ask yourself. So where has Kindiki gone to? Or Kindiki is concerned about being, because people say now in Mount Kenya, that Professor Kindiki is among the most effective ministers in Ruto government. Maybe he's more concerned about executing the issue of insecurity rather than focusing on who is the kingpin. And the kingpin will emerge. You cannot declare yourself a kingpin.
Yes.
Raila Odinga never stood and took a microphone and said, I'm the law supremo. He never said that.
Yes.
He just became. Mm-hmm. There's no day Uhuru Kenyatta took a microphone and told anybody, keep quiet so that I can become the kingpin. That's not the way to become a kingpin. There is no way Kibaki ever mentioned he was a kingpin for Mount Kenya. He emerged as a kingpin. So kingpins emerge. Anybody mentioning themselves to be a kingpin, no, that's how they are not a kingpin. As a father at home, you cannot tell people that I'm the father of this house. Once that becomes your talking point, means you're not. You can't tell your wife, I'm your husband. You can't tell your kids, no, I'm your father. You cannot tell people, I'm your grandfather. Those positions are never mentioned. They are not mentioned because they're very powerful. There is no point of William Ruto telling people he's the kingpin of Kalenjin land. Have you ever heard him saying, I'm the kingpin for Rift Valley? Is he not? There's a time when Moi was. There's a time when people thought Gideon will take it up. William Ruto never mentioned it. He is the kingpin for that area. You cannot go against him in that area. In fact, before he talks, you'll be beaten. You understand me? So what I'm trying to say here is that for me, those are non-issues. But you ask a very important question. Let me tell you one thing. William Ruto is an interesting politician. Because Kindiki, in terms of competence, he chose Rigathi Gachagua because of money. Rigathi Gachagua has more money to mobilize people. And politics is about mobilization. Mobilization is about money.
Yes.
And I can tell you, the criteria for choosing a kingpin is very clear. Or choosing who's going to be running for William Ruto is going to be clear. When it comes to 2027, mark my words as I predict this, it will still be Rigathi Gachagua. For reasons are the following. Rigathi Gachagua, looking at who is making money in this government between his election and next 2027, Rigathi Gachagua is making more money, not Ndindi Nyoro. Ndindi Nyoro has a very small platform, chair of budget in parliament, isn't it? Those people eat from the what they call the scrums of bread. But Rigathi Gachagua is controlling government. There are some people who are ministers in that government, courtesy of Rigathi Gachagua. And he even said when there was a need for a shuffle, he said, so-and-so is going away, and for what? Where is he going? And no shuffle took place. You heard Moses Kuria was supposed to leave, isn't it? Who made Moses Kuria to remain? It was clear he was leaving. You saw that. So what I'm trying to tell you is clear. The kingpinship of Rigathi Gachagua was won by his mobilization of the votes that he brought William Ruto. And the votes matters now.
Does it?
He is still making money. He has ministers. There are people who are PSs in this government. People who are chairs of parastatals who have to dance the tune of Rigathi Gachagua. Count to me, how many people must dance the tune of Ndindi Nyoro so that they survive in Kenya Kwanza government? MPs can say one thing or thereabout. They'll be called to State House tomorrow and they'll be told the direction and they'll take it. Remember, MPs, all of them of Kenya Kwanza went to Parliament and State House and told William Ruto that we are unpopular. Do something different. He was told you don't need popularity. What did they say? They kept quiet. And now they are now preaching the gospel of Kenya Kwanza. So truth be said, that you cannot be able to change these dynamics.
Yes.
And I can tell you, William Ruto values money or competence. That's why he took Rigathi Gachagua over
Yes.
Professor Kithure Kindiki.
Yes.
And then the last point, which is very important here. Rigathi Gachagua should ask himself this question. The fact that he was the Frufimo, second in command, and now he is being questioned, what is it that he has done or not done? What he has not done is that he was supposed to look deputy president. He was supposed to look presidential. In fact, deputy president, people look at you as the next president. Do you look at him like that? Maybe that's why Mount Kenya is trying to say, well, he can be deputy president, but can he be the next president? Because Mount Kenya is so concerned about their interest. Maybe Ndindi Nyoro presents more of a leader who can be president, not maybe better than Rigathi Gachagua being the president, but people think that Ndindi Nyoro looks at a presidential candidate.
Yes.
And that's why they're trying to say, maybe trying to drum up blow the trumpet of Ndindi Nyoro could make them there, because some people, if you put Rigathi Gachagua as president in the ballot, let me tell you, that can be risky. But people are happy to say, let him be second in command, then they can vote the ticket. Maybe this is what Mount Kenya are trying to say. They want back the presidency. The person who can deliver the presidency is Ndindi Nyoro. Maybe not this guy. And I can tell you, when William Ruto was the deputy president, he gave the seat deputy president something. There's people whom the seat is bigger than them, and they only benefit from the bigness of the seat, and there are people who make the seat much smaller, and they become bigger than the seat. William Ruto was bigger than deputy president, you can tell that. He was running the country, I told you. He was running treasury. He was running parliament. Duale was running Senate for him. Justin Muturi was running parliament for him. So you can tell he was running the country as deputy president. Rigathi Gachagua, as deputy president, what does he run in this government? He does not control treasury. He doesn't control parliament. He doesn't control Senate. He only controls Mount Kenya. So the point I'm trying to draw here is that Ndindi Nyoro should have someone who can package him to make him look more presidential, and this could make him win this battle than shouting at Ndindi Nyoro.
Let's look at it like this as well. That when you look at a proper analysis of the 2022 general elections, that none of those people come from Mount Kenya would say that we single-handedly gave you a percentage in this election. That Mount Kenya did not vote because they were essentially voting for support for a leader from Mount Kenya. That they had to vote in a certain way. And then there's the narrative that, well, there was the biggest voter apathy that we've seen from that particular region in a general election. That's what we saw, the lowest numbers turn out to vote in the 2022 election. And that there was this also narrative that they had to vote against the support of one president, Uhuru Kenyatta. That currently as it is, if you give it a proper analysis, that neither Ndindi Nyoro, neither Rigathi Gachagua, none of those who are claiming to be the kingpins from that particular region would say it is because of me that we got that 47%. That's why if you're advising one president, Dr. William Ruto, you would say, you know what, maybe if you're going to win the next election again, because the central region again does not have #1 spot to vote for, you can choose any from that particular region, and you might as well get almost the same number of votes that you got in 2022. That's why it doesn't matter whether it's Rigathi Gachagua, because of the split that we're seeing now, that if it is a man who's presenting a split, then you can do away with him. That either way, you're still going to get that support, which might almost, or even better than much as you got in 2022. That's why that particular man called President, Dr. William Ruto, knows very well that there's something going on. And I want to remind you what he said in 2023, by the way. During that particular time, when he was talking about this impending election, he said, even me, I'm not so sure whether I'll be vaunted as the next presidential candidate. That none of them, even Ndindi Nyoro here, who's got the party SG, he might not be taken up as the man who's going to be the next in that position. Exactly. So he said, vile kutaenda, and he said it by the way, vile kutaenda, nyinyi ndio mtamua. Is this speaking like a man who knows, if I get him, fine. If I don't get him, still fine.
I think the president in his wisdom is speaking rightly, because he's just trying to tell them, look, if me, myself, I don't know about tomorrow, why are you discussing this matter? basically he was trying to tell them, just forget Sahawi discussion. Let's discuss.
He knows though, isn't
yes,
it?
but let's discuss things that are important. And I like what Professor Gola today has been very positive. Asante sana ndugu. Government.
He's always positive.
No, not in a negative way. I don't mean your personality, but I'm saying the way you hit government most of the times. But today you've actually brought it out very positively, and that's good. However, what I want to point out is this.
Yes.
You see, the dynamics of the 2022 elections in Mount Kenya were not the same as they are today. In 2022, we had Uhuru Kenyatta, and he was the sitting president. And Uhuru Kenyatta, for you to beat Uhuru Kenyatta, you needed a tough man. You needed a no-holds-back person, you know, somebody who's a fighter. And Uhuru Kenyatta was not a simple person. Secondly, Uhuru Kenyatta had put his muscle, money, finance on one Raila Amolo Odinga. Okay? And remember, like he said rightly, RUTO, William Samoei RUTO, had a lot of wisdom and a lot of power, even during Uhuru Kenyatta's time,
yes,
that he could rally people behind him. So when Rigathi Gachagua was fighting Uhuru Kenyatta, his number one mission, and I know and I believe, William Samoei RUTO needed a Rigathi Gachagua to defeat Uhuru Kenyatta and his candidate in Mount Kenya. And indeed, Rigathi Gachagua did a good job politically. He really tore up Uhuru Kenyatta to pieces. And you can look at the revolting vote against Uhuru Kenyatta's candidate. You know, Uhuru Kenyatta was left embarrassed and naked by his own people, because the Mount Kenya people felt that Uhuru Kenyatta did not deliver for them as they expected. Especially when you look at the areas of coffee and tea and milk and other resources. And I like what my brother also mentioned about the numbers in education, what is happening to the youth in Mount Kenya. You know, there's a lot of problems that are going on. So Uhuru Kenyatta was hit by Rigathi Gachagua at that time because he was the right candidate.
Yes.
And therefore, and that's why I say, the dynamics have not changed either in the opposition. Raila Amolo Odinga is still there.
Yeah.
And therefore, don't think that Didi Nyoro would have the muscle in 2027 to support, and I like what he said, right now, the machinery that Rigathi Gachagua has is a force to reckon with. And even if Didi Nyoro may be promising leader, he has a tough battle to go through. And that's why Rigathi is telling him, brother, don't push me. Don't go that direction. Shut up, keep quiet. Let's focus on what we are doing to deliver for the president and the people of Kenya. Therefore, it is important that we understand that right now, we've been reading in the media that one Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta is back. You saw the headline last week. And therefore, when Didi Nyoro comes out fighting against, or people are they being used by Uhuru Kenyatta? Could the schema of Rigathi Gachagua, could you be reading from the wrong page by thinking it's William Ruto? It's not William Ruto. William Ruto cannot eat his own government. It would be the last thing William Samoei Ruto would do to betray Rigathi Gachagua, and I'm sure he's not doing that. I believe that perhaps this whole drama you're seeing coming up and rising up, those MPs, they need to be looked into. Have they been receiving some finances or support from Uhuru Kenyatta? Because we know Uhuru Kenyatta's number one enemy is Rigathi Gachagua, because of what Rigathi Gachagua did to destroy Uhuru Kenyatta in Mount Kenya. Today, Uhuru Kenyatta, even if he was to go to Mount Kenya, even though he's loved, he's not as loved as he was before. 10 years after his leadership, the poverty levels, like my brother said, have risen in Mount Kenya. For the first time, we are seeing young people not even having any future in Mount Kenya. And yet, Mount Kenya is where we have the most success in terms of even business. What is happening? So therefore, I call on Didi Nyoro and his team to sit aside as a Mount Kenya resident and tell them to focus on their own particular local leadership and allow Rigathi Gachagua the space to implement the reforms that are needed for coffee, for tea, for milk, and macadamia.
Yes.
Right now, regarding Didi Nyoro and his team bringing these issues, and I listened to the other MPs from Mount Kenya. The majority of MPs are backing Rigathi Gachagua. So it's very unlike for you to say that perhaps it's the president who wants to change Rigathi Gachagua.
Just take a minute in this. I want us to jump to Prop before we look at exactly what's going on at the Azimio coalition as well. Remember I asked you, and you see clearly that, well, the dynamics have really changed from 2022, probably looking into 2027. There was a man in the picture, was a sitting president, that Rigathi Gachagua had to fight to get off. And he used that as the way to be seen as the redeemer in Mount Kenya.
He brought down the kingpin, so he deserves that position.
Now that he's out, what is the incentive to have Rigathi Gachagua now? That this man, who was seen as the stumbling block, is already out. And what is the incentive for the central people to support Rigathi Gachagua, really, in that? That's why I asked, when you look at any other person from the central part of Kenya, now that that man who you were fighting is out, doesn't it make sense for the president to say, well, any other person that you give me, that is for the central people to support? Yes.
The incentive is there. If Rigathi Gachagua can deliver on those 3-4 things in terms of agriculture, when we talk about coffee, getting coffee prices, good prices for the coffee. Secondly, tea. Thirdly, macadamia and the nuts and the like. If Rigathi can restore that sector, believe it or not, the Mount Kenya people will vote for him man to man. You remember 2013, Kumera? This will be the same. Because these are the things that are making Mount Kenya people feel like they're not receiving what they need. And therefore, my advice to Rigathi Gachagua, Baba Wetu, please focus on those deliverables. Do not get lured into responding to Didi Nyoro. Stay focused and deliver. And secondly, also, we call upon you, Rigathi Gachagua, look for young people around you who can help galvanize, mobilize the youth vote, because the youth are the majority in Mount Kenya, so that whatever issues that the youth are facing, and we appreciate the second lady of Kenya, your wife, Dorcas Rigathi, because she's dealing with the permanent issues, the issues that are underlying, which are drugs and alcohol. Our young people are getting wasted in drugs and alcohol, and our young women are also getting wasted in prostitution because of economic disempowerment. It's enfranchising our young people. Therefore, Rigathi Gachagua, kindly look at the value chains. Bring the industries into Mount Kenya, and that is the incentive that you only need to achieve so that the people of Mount Kenya will vote for you man to man. And this is all the way from Igembe to Nakuru, to Murang'a, to Nyeri, and all the parts of Mount Kenya. I can assure him that.
Prof, as you get ready to also respond to what Mr. Kiage has essentially presented this morning, you know, it's not only Nyoro's name that is appearing now, and that's what I'm saying. You know, Edward, whether you like it or not, please, just you're going to get back to this. Whether you like it or not, you see, the situation that is getting presented is, you know what? There are better names that will give the people of Central Kenya. Now that there is no essential kingpin in that particular region, so give them any other person, and you've got the same numbers that you got in 2022. Find elsewhere, probably in the western part of the country, get the same numbers. You've delivered the vote as well. Waiguru's name has come up. Ndini Nyoro's name has come up. You're looking at a split that has been essentially now introduced within our party as they get into the April elections. I mean, Prof, and please indulge us this morning, and I'm going to give Edward 1 minute to respond. I mean, yes, you present a case about how strong in terms of capital Rigathi Gachagua is, and that's essentially what you've got to look at if you're going to muscle anybody within a party. But for the people of the central part of Kenya, if I'm going to go by Edward's presentation, is about if he delivers on his agenda. So if he delivers on our agenda that's being of the central people, for the central part of Kenya, then it becomes becomes somebody that you can send back to them so they can vote for him. But what if you present other people that are deemed to be proper leaders in the central part of Kenya? Would that not be a proper incentive for them? Case in point, Ndindi Nyoro, just like he said, had working member of parliament with a proper track record. Waiguru as well comes up, if you're looking at performing governors in the country, we looked at the rating last year among the top 10 performing governors in this country. So what is Rigathi Gachagua going to present for the people of Central of Kenya if indeed these others are also being given that mantle? Prof.
Let me tell Edward something very interesting about Mount Kenya. I'm not from Mount Kenya.
Yes.
But you see, I've taught in Strathmore for more than 12 years. And in a classroom, I've seen more Mount Kenya students in an MBA class than any other tribes, which means that they're business people. And they really know what they want. When they come to class, the questions they ask me in class about business, they're very intelligent questions. They don't ask theoretical questions, they ask practical questions. How can you turn around a business? How can you do this and that? And in fact, my consultancy company does much well because of the very students, mostly from Mount Kenya. They're not even from Luo Nyanza, if you like.
Yes.
And I can tell you something very interesting about them, that Mount Kenya is high maintenance people. High maintenance in the way that you don't have to deliver only one thing. You have to deliver other things. I know you might have a different opinion from myself on the issue of Uhuru Kenyatta. According to me as an economist, Uhuru Kenyatta remains one of the most decorated presidents this country has ever had. But numbers speak for itself. Most of the conceptualized projects, which were conceptual under Kibaki, he executed them. And this has the beauty of the leadership. SGR, with all its problems, was delivered and was done. Expressway, with all these ones are Kibaki's conceptualized projects. They were executed by President Uhuru Kenyatta. President Uhuru Kenyatta has got a passion for people. You could say it. He turned around the economy at a very difficult time when we had COVID, we had all these things without complaining. He just made the comment. He's an executor, Uhuru Kenyatta. But one thing why Mount Kenya didn't like him, which is this. Mount Kenya expected the president to be busy executing those projects at the same time visiting them. Because on the opposite, he sent William Ruto to visit Mount Kenya while for him was executing that. Go and see them. Mount Kenya is like your girlfriend. You can send the best gift for her birthday, but if you're not there, you lose it. Look at the story look at the one of Jennifer Lopez, who says, I don't need your money. I can do without your money. I needed you here. And the fact that Uhuru Kenyatta was executing, look at the road. They said you cannot eat tarmac. Is it not? They said that, isn't it? Now, the Mount Kenya people wanted him to be there, and William Ruto knew this very well. So whenever he was being sent, he was not saying I had been sent by the president. He was saying that I have come. I have come. And one thing you forgot was that William Ruto went to Mount Kenya directly. That was his question.
Yeah, exactly.
He told them, we were in a marriage. I was thrown away. And then they brought another chick to come and dissolve a marriage between us and Uhuru Kenyatta. He preached the gospel of betrayal. William Ruto looked like Mount Kenya. In fact, we could say, Muriega, Muriega. He was speaking like Mount Kenya. And people gave him vote. More votes went to him like him, not through Rigathi Gachagua. In fact, it was like we say in Christianity that the temple was, the clothing in the temple was torn so that I can speak to God directly. So Mount Kenya tore the temple and removed the kingpin and went directly to William Ruto. Remember his last campaign in Kiambu? He ran in a chopper, literally running, sprinting to meet people. What I'm trying to say here is that ignore all these things of kingpins. And it might not work. He can deliver the issue, talk about agriculture, tea, coffee, and the rest, but there's something else he has to do that it is not happening with him. He has to look presidential. Mount Kenya believes he ashames them. Mount Kenya believes he wants to see someone who has a leadership attribute. The leaders who have run Mount Kenya, look at Kibaki. Kibaki not only executed as Minister for Finance of Mount Kenya people, carrying the briefcase, solving the Mount Kenya business, but he also was a leader that they were proud of. When Kibaki stood and spoke about economics, they loved it. When Rigathi Gachagua stands up, his mouth just shows he's not speaking from Mount Kenya perspective. The kind of things he talks. So he needs to be taught something on communication. How can he look at Mount Kenya? Mount Kenya people are business people. You must speak like them. Look at the guys of James Mwangi. Look at the people who come from there. The who is who in business come from Mount Kenya. You must speak to show you know how business runs. And that's where Ndindi Nyoro is better. The fact that he's chairing the budget committee in Parliament shows he knows what he's doing. I've ever sat with Ndindi Nyoro. Remember, Ndindi Nyoro is not the kind of person you say being picked as a politician. Ndindi Nyoro was running an investment company under Diane Blair. He knows how to invest. He's not somebody you can just pick from here. So you cannot underestimate him. The other thing which is important here is that when you see in an area, people start mentioning who can be a father, it shows there's something wrong with the father. So the answer is not to do with whether, for example, the lady from Kirinyaga would say Anne Waiguru or it is Ndindi Nyoro. Why is it that in Karen, Anne Waiguru gave up the issue of being deputy president earlier? Remember? Because it was Ruto promised that the deputy president will be a woman. She met Ruto, they agreed she's given up on that position. Wakina Ndindi Nyoro are not being mentioned. The fact that other people from Manya are being mentioned, remember Kindiki is not yet done because he's not talking, but does not mean he does not want. So what I can tell you, which I forgot to mention before, I can tell you for a fact, William Ruto is deeply involved in these upheavals because of this reason. He wants to stick with Rigathi Gachagua, but he wants him to pull up his stocks if he has them. You know, I can know that you will be my partner in the next business we want to do. But I pretend that now I want to pick another partner so that you pull up your socks. When you used to date, you know this is your girlfriend, you know she's the one you're marrying, you made up your mind. But you try to pretend that there are some alternatives so that she can pull up her socks on some issues. This is possible. Even a man, women do that to you. A woman can know this is going to be my husband, but she pretends someone is dating her because for you are saying marriage is 2027, but she wants to get married in 2025. So she tells you, you know, by the way, so-and-so told me if I can consider going with him to Dubai because there's some courses me to do. Hey, you are traveling to Dubai with my opponent. Then you marry her today so that you block the other guy. So William Ruto, being a clever politician, he's trying to show Rigathi Gachagua is not done and dusted, that you are going to run again. So pull up your socks so that you can come to this occasion. And I can tell you, if Rigathi Gachagua is wise, let him go and sit with his boss, that's William Ruto, and ask him, my boss, I've been deputizing you for 1.5 years, isn't it? Can you give me my scorecard? With my scorecard, can you recommend some areas of improvement? If he does that, it will help me more than fighting Ndindi Nyoro, because the person picking the running mate is not Ndindi Nyoro. It's not UDA. In fact, even Ruto is trying to tell you that he's not done. Ruto is the next presidential candidate for UDA, you like it or not. Whether he will or not, that's another story. But he is the next presidential candidate for UDA. He is the one going to pick the running mate, and he is going to pick the running mate based on how he thinks that person can deliver. Let Rigathi Gachagua go and sit with his boss and ask this question. And let Ndindi Nyoro ask the boss again, my boss, I think I can do something on Kenya. Can you tell me what will be your criteria for picking the next running mate? And the circumstances have changed. I think this will be a better discussion.
Here's the thing.
Yes.
I want you to answer one question.
Sure.
Probably this time I'll get it clear from you. I mean, if indeed there's this particular split that we're reading now within that particular party, I mean, what does Ruto stand to lose if he doesn't go with Rigathi Gachagua?
First of all, before I answer that, Rigathi Gachagua is a performer. Rigathi Gachagua's background is in administration. He's been an administrator and he's been a businessman. In fact, Rigathi Gachagua is one of the most successful business people, like the levels of James Mwangi, and he's an astute businessman in Mount Kenya, and he's got successful business stories of how he succeeded. So let's not underestimate.
You know, by the way,
let's not underestimate. Wait, let me. You can't interrupt me. You can't interrupt me. Don't allow. No, but I haven't finished.
I wanted 15 seconds.
I'm still giving you my point.
You know what, Edward? You still have the stage.
No, exactly.
So you still
hold on.
15 seconds and then you continue. Edward, you're going to continue.
15 seconds.
Trust me.
Rigathi Gachagua made money around 7.5 billion shillings in the run-up to the election for 2027. To do that kind of business, you need an establishment close to the Safaricom one. Can you just mention the businesses?
Look,
continue.
Let me explain to you something. I don't want to get into people's private business. I'm not here. I'm not his lawyer. I'm not his business advisor. Neither am I a consultant in that direction. So I'm going to refrain from speaking about his business. I'm here to just issue my points. And my point being, whatever people want to say about where he gathered his wealth, it's questionable for everybody where he gathered. It's private. It's his own business. But remember, this gentleman has been there in the Moi era. He's been there in the Kibaki era.
Yes.
He's been there now in the Uhuru era. So he's a businessman. He's been making good money from a long time ago. But that's not the point. The point is, what is his performance? Him as a deputy president, he has performed very, very well as a deputy president. He has been the principal assistant to the president successfully.
Yes.
You see the way government is running. Government is running seamlessly. Even with Mudavadi, I've never seen Rigathi Gachagua attack Mudavadi or feel inferior of Mudavadi. Even if Mudavadi has a ministry and he's also the prime cabinet secretary. Rigathi Gachagua, my advice to you, kindly focus. Focus on delivering for Mount Kenya. Mount Kenya people have been mistreated before. They have had a president and they felt that the president did not deliver. And I want to point out to my friend, for Mount Kenya people to say Atukuli Lami, that was like a proverb. That, yes, indeed, you build these roads, but these roads are good enough, but we need more. And I like what you said again. You mentioned that Mount Kenya people, not just one thing, they are several, they are dynamic people, they are intelligent people. Even you can see in business in Nairobi. So if Rigathi Gachagua can just focus on those deliverables that is promised, and indeed, I want to say that to a certain degree, my friend is right. Perhaps the president may have seen a few issues in his style of leadership as Rigathi Gachagua. Nobody is perfect. Even William RUTO, when he was deputy president, he also received a lot of criticism. And that is normal and in a democracy. So therefore, it is good also for Rigathi Gachagua to reflect on his style of leadership, to reflect how he relates to other leaders, so that he can be able to mobilize and galvanize the leaders behind him. So that even if he has ambitions for 2032, which is still far away, he can then project himself as that leader who fits the bill. Yes. Because currently, indeed, like you said, Anne Waiguru, there are names that have popped up. There are other names, but those names are premature. Anne Waiguru has still got 4 years. She may do a blunder as the governor of Kirinyaga and gets impeached. So that's a dream. But the person who has the resources, the person who has the power is Rigathi Gachagua. Yes.
I would like us to take a tiny bit of idea.
Sure. Thank you.
As we come back, it's not only just the talk about what's going on within UDA. No. Because Azimio coalition is already brewing some sort of conflict.
Exactly.
Last week, members of the Wiper Party, they came in and said, well, guys, I mean, from where we stand,
yes,
the only person who's going to represent this coalition in 2027
is Kalonzo.
One Kalonzo Musyoka. In fact, they said they are readying themselves to present papers to the coalition that are going to present now one man called Kalonzo Musyoka as the flag. Which way azimio? Once we come back, the bigger question in the room for this gentleman I have to answer, I'm going to introduce another gentleman who's joining us this morning is one of India ever.
kiangazi imedhiri sana katika area hii yetu ya Laikipia. Mara mingi sana katika Laikipia kuna wafugaji na kuna wakulima. Hakuna yule ambaye amesaidika, hata wakulima pia wajasaidika na wafugaji pia wajasaidika. Lakini kwa siku ya leo tunasema kwamba RUTO Foundation imetusaidia sana, kwa sababu inalisha jamii ambaye hawana nguvu ya kupata lishe mahali moja au nyingine.
Tulikuwa tunalala hoi. Ukweli kabisa, mimi siamini. Hata mtu mwingine jinsi tumeleta hapo usiku alikuwa amesimia. Alikuwa na siku 3 hajaumwa kitu. Kwa hivyo tunashukuru sana RUTO. Leo watoto wengi ameshiba.
Nashukuru Mungu kwa RUTO Foundation siku ya leo. Maana wamekuja at least manyumba 100 leo na 10 itaweza kunuka kitunguu jioni ya leo. Tulikuwa na njaa, si mchezo, ilikuwa na njaa, si ya ile ya kusema iko njaa.
Ya kwanza tumekuwa na watoto ambao wameshikwa na hata watu wazima na utapia mlo, na pia tukiangalia hii ni area ambayo imejaa watu ambao wana rely na mifugo, na mifugo mingi imeweza kuisha kwa sababu ya kiangazi, na tunashukuru sana the RUTO Foundation kwa msaada wao ambao wameweza. Asanteni sana.
Every time you play Lotto, 25% goes to the RUTO Foundation, which supports our fellow Kenyans through various causes. Thank you for your help. Together, we are changing lives.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
Tere, mambo ni mawili, kufikisha, kumwaga na kurudi. Kulala ni mwaka mpya.
Muka we mse. Nini mbaya? Wewe kwani wani vile dereva anaendesha gari vibaya, lazima tususe.
Anaendesha gari na kwa simu the whole time, hata angalia barabara.
Mamiseni dereva tusimame. Wewe dereva wewe, mwaka iliyopita peke yake watu zaidi ya 3,000 walipoteza maisha yao barabarani kwa sababu ya tabia kama hizo. Hautatuangamiza tukiona.
Naomba msamaha, nitampeleka vizuri.
Si wameomba msamaha. Sasa tuende tusafiri kwa mwendo wa aste.
Dere Smart hufikisha abiria salama. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na NTSA kwa ushirikiano na European Union.
What about mambo fantastic if not scholastic? Chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket imerudi. Ukifanya tu shopping ya shilingi 1,000, wewe unaingia kwa promotion ya chota kuchota na Hetia Supermarket. Watu wanaendelea kushinda ndani ya Hetia Supermarket.
Ni yangu.
Mwana tata, kitoko. Wewe na umeshinda
nini? Yote. Hamsa,
Karibu ndani ya Hetia Supermarket uweze kuchota kwa wingi kabisa. Wasupo wanasema nini? Nakwambia kwamba chota kuchota. Unangoja nini?
Magari 7 za kushindaniwa, TV, fridge, microwave, shopping vouchers, school fees vouchers, instant prizes na zawadi zingine kemkem. Chota kuchota imethaminiwa na Hetia's, Oven Fresh Bakery, Gigabyte, Mount Kenya Milk, Clover's Food Products, Velvet, Magic Drink, Pwani Oil, Arenco, Fruit Juice, Masterchef, Toilex, Coolsip, Mika, Wash Ultra, Philos, Prestol, Nivea, My Choice, Ushindi, Fresh Fry, Arimis Jelly, Cabernet Water, Dettol, Ketepa, Meta, Glucose, Coca-Cola, Rosy Tissue, Big Giant, Elbins, Unilever, Fresh, Unga wa Dola, Blue Band na Pasta Star. Shindano la chota kuchota linaanza tarehe 1 Disemba hadi tarehe 10 Februari mwaka 2024.
Hetia Supermarket, a world of choice.
Are you an SME looking for a media partner? Look no more, as Lookuptv got you covered for all your visibility and marketing needs. We at Lookuptv understand your business needs and want to work with you on your marketing journey, giving you solutions that will take you to the next level. Call us today on 0707 572 358 or send an email to sales@lookuptv.co.ke and kickstart this amazing journey. Welcome to Lookuptv, your official SME media partner.
Welcome back to the Morning Drips. My name is Simba Elijah Charles Kiage. Let me then introduce Dedan Chage to the conversation. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine.
Dedan is an advocate. Good. Point, and I'm not going to take you back to come from. Let's talk about a simple question: which way azimio? Because we do know this Thursday, Azimio leader Raila Amolo Odinga is calling for a meeting to talk about the state of that party as they forecast for the 2027 elections. Then let me begin with you this morning, since you've just joined us this morning. This is particularly coming at a time when we do know very well that there have been talks about a Kalonzo presidency. And I talk about that because last week, Wiper party leaders came in and said, this is the man that we want to represent any coalition that we're going to get into, right? And just before we talk about it, the comments that were made during the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Memorial that happened this weekend in Kisumu, let's take a look at it. Once we come back, the question is going to be, is Raila Amolo Odinga presidency attractive to his supporters currently as it is? Let's take a look at that. We come back, talk to David, Prof, and Edward.
That which is dead lived, so as you live to die.
Development of Africa. In a nutshell, the press must be involved in championing the correct direction of development in Africa.
More than 30 years since his demise, the memorial ceremony for the late former Deputy President Jaramogi Oginga Odinga was today marked at St. Stephen's Anglican Church in Kisumu.
This event would have been held 3 years ago, but because of the COVID, we decided to postpone it. And today was so important because this is the 30th anniversary of Jaramogi, why we decided that it must be held here today. Jaramogi was very many things, a very versatile character, very engaging when you want to talk to him, but very simple, It was very, very simple. We remember when we were growing up here in this town, Jaramogi just used to wear kinyasa and a color shoes.
That was a statement Jaramogi made in London. There was a scandal which was in the Times in London, and we were there with Othigo Tieno.
Those making it to the event, both virtually and physically, including Oginga's family, friends, as well as Moses Kuria, termed him as a leader for all for his efforts to ensure that Kenyans from different backgrounds had access to education.
Nadhura Umar, nimekuja hapa kusherekea hii sherehe ya miaka 30 for one of my early mentors. When I was a young man, I remember as a student leader in the University of Nairobi.
When I got married in that home 50 years ago, let me say, when I first met Jaramogi, I was so scared because I didn't know I was going to meet such a great man. My boyfriend then, Raila Odinga, cheated me that he was taking me for a ride from Kisumu.
Kitui Senator Enoch Wambua, representing Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka, to commemorate one of the fathers of democracy in the country, Jaramogi, for his efforts to protect democracy. The senator urged Raila Odinga to ensure that the rebel azimio leaders are evicted to strengthen democracy in the footsteps of his late father.
I have a lot of respect for three people, three leaders in this country. The first person that I truly respect, and that is why I am here on a Saturday, ni huyu mzee Jaramogi Ajuma Oginga Odinga. Because when he had an opportunity to form government and become president of the Republic of Kenya, he passed that opportunity and said, we can never do it for as long as Johnston Jomo Kenyatta is in distinction.
Hakuweza kusita kupeana nasaha na kupeana yale mazuri kwa wale walikuwa wanajulikana kama young turks, wala hakushika wale ambao kwamba ni Wajaluo peke yake.
Many who attended the anniversary praised the late and pressed for a continuation of his efforts as a national leader.
I have learned under the feet of Baba Raila.
That's part of the presentations that we got from that particular memorial. But then, if you listen to the entire speech for Raila Amolo Odinga, there was a point when he mentioned about his father's chances of becoming the president and essentially why he never became the president of the Republic of Kenya. And then there was something that people mentioned with that particular memorial. Remember, just like Prof has been saying off camera, the majority of us might not really know the deeper history that Raila Amolo Odinga keeps on telling Kenyans. But it is indeed true that Jaramogi Oginga Odinga told him that you'll never become the president of the Republic of Kenya. That is also in public domain. That the biggest challenge for Raila Amolo Odinga, even if you track it back to 2007, 2008 general elections, when he essentially saw it, but never saw it, that is a thing that has kept on following Raila Amolo Odinga to date. Now, 2027 is here, and they're talking about how that particular coalition, the ODM and Azimio coalition, is essentially going to look like. I want to introduce you this morning by welcoming you to the show. And I want to ask you the question that every other person is wondering. A Raila Amolo Odinga presidency in 2027. What does it introduce? And is it any attractive anymore?
Is a powerhouse name. Mm-hmm. You cannot belittle the enigma and the person of Raila Amolo Odinga.
Yes.
50 years to come, Raila Amolo Odinga will be a name embedded in the books of history. You cannot for the presidency several times. He has lost. Well, technically, some will say he won several times, but we leave that to the history, to the writers of history. Now, in 2027, Raila is going to be in the ballot. Raila will vie for the presidency, and whether he will win, that's a story for another day. Now, we have seen the Azimio coalition bring in caucuses in the coalition bring in the name of Kalonzo Musyoka.
Yes.
Now, Kalonzo Musyoka is equally a powerhouse. However, Kalonzo Musyoka may not command as much following as Raila does.
Yes.
Now, Wiper Party, that is the party that is led by Kalonzo Musyoka. They feel we've given you an opportunity. We allowed you to vie for the presidency in 2022. We did not even get the position of the deputy president. It was a candidate, that is, it was given to Mother Karua. We would have wanted at least a position that has a national outlook, either the presidency or the deputy presidency candidacy. Now, here we are, 2027. We have been waiting for more. Kalonzo has been a presidential candidate, has been a vice president. He is ripe. He is ready. Give us the opportunity. You have not clinched the presidency with the candidacy of Raila Amolo Odinga. We will get the candidacy in the if you give us a chance to front Kalonzo Musyoka. So 2027 will be a race to watch.
Just take a minute from this before I bring it back to Prof as well. That as Kalonzo Musyoka knows today that if it was left to him, that it's going to be very hard then for him to command the numbers that he may want in a general election. There's a feeling within his camp that, look here, Raila Amolo Odinga has to say Kalonzo Tosha in 2027 if that presidency is going to make sense. Is that what it is? Is that why there are rumblings within the Kalonzo camp that this is a man who's been with you, he supported you, it's your turn now? Which why I asked, Raila Amolo Odinga, what is going to stop him from running in 2027?
You see, if you look at the 1 year that has been the presidency of the current president, that is Dr. William Ruto, we have seen the numbers and the following and the ratings of the current presidency are way below what we would have expected.
Yes.
And what when Ruto was campaigning, we had the hustlers and everybody had so much hope in the presidency of the hustler nation.
Does it?
Now that rating has gone drastically down. Now that gives anybody who wants to vie and who wants to vie against Ruto an upper hand. Now that takes us to the candidacy of William Ruto, of Raila Amolo Odinga and Kalonzo Musyoka. Raila Amolo Odinga knows that if he is ever to become the president, this is his opportunity. And I don't see him. I don't see him saying Kalonzo Tosha.
Kadega, I see you smile. I'll be coming back to you. I see you smiling. I'll be coming back to you. Kadega, hold that particular point. Then you see how these gentlemen are looking at you and say, "Oh, okay, Prof. Let's look at it like this." Kalonzo Musyoka knows is a man who has to count in the 2027 ballot. So I'm sitting here knowing very well that President Dr. William Ruto, who we do expect to run in 2027, will be looking at Kalonzo Musyoka as a factor, Raila Amolo Odinga as a factor. Kalonzo Musyoka, what is his role in the 2027 general election should Raila Amolo Odinga not support him?
I think this is a very interesting question. The other question you have to ask, whom does William Ruto want among the two as the candidate against him? And the answer is obvious. He has actually named the candidate on behalf of Azimio. And historically, he did it in Kisumu. He was in the heart of Kisumu. And he told them, I'll beat him. I'll beat Kalonzo. Give me Kalonzo.
He actually told them, I'll beat him.
So he actually was telling Raila to support him instead of supporting Kalonzo, because then Raila has a better chance of actually forming the government. So I think the people of Kisumu has a very serious dilemma. Actually, if you ask me, the people who needs to think about this decision much more than anybody else is the Luo nation. And I would like to weigh into the implications of that as well. I think there's something that you have to understand, and I think I was in a meeting when for the first time Raila was given a nod against Kalonzo. Remember, Kalonzo was ahead of Raila.
Also, you were in that meeting?
Yes, I was in that meeting at Olentimama's home. I was a young boy.
Yes.
But because I love strategy, I used to have one of my friends. I have a political mentor called Timothy Bosire, who is the treasurer for ODM. He called me, he tagged me along just like his young boy, sitting there watching the discussion. The discussion was this. Kibaki was a sitting president, just like now William Ruto is a sitting president.
Yes.
So the question was that Kalonzo was told, rise up and tell people, tell the elders, what do you have that will unseat a sitting president? So Kalonzo stood up and talked about his opinion on poll ranking. Of course, his nice looks, isn't it? And also mentioned the gentleman in him. And he talked about the issue of how much money he had. I think that time he mentioned something like 20 million shillings. When Raila Odinga stood up, he said he has CIA, he has the support from the US, from the UK, from everywhere. Whether they are true or not, he said to them. And he said he had a lot of money. He mentioned something to do with the 25 billion shillings that can run the election. He also talked about the very passionate support from the Luo nation, and eventually mentioned this Maasai people. Actually, anybody who needs to credit Raila's presidency is Maasai people. It is the Maasais who stood and said they cannot take a coward. They want a strong person like William, or like Raila Odinga. You know, Kalonzo looks like somebody who goes to sit and wait and see, but Raila is like, this is the way. Raila does not wait to be told. Like now, look, Kalonzo is waiting to say, if Raila says Tosha, then I run, isn't it? Is Raila waiting for that? No. It's like Raila is holding the yam and the knife in his hand for Azimio candidature. Kalonzo is waiting. He has no yam, he has no knife. If you are holding a hot pan and there is meat inside the hot pan, yes, it's only you to give. So the presidency for Kalonzo is only if Raila gives him. Raila's presidency is in his hands. He can go for it. Whether he wins or not, another story. But truth be said here, the winning for Raila Odinga is going to be a very difficult win because of the fact that he's a candidate that people have really known so much. Remember, there's a time when there are some teams like Spain used to beat teams like 6-0 using tiki-taka. When people discovered the tiki-taka game, it was much easier. And also, something we have been saying as those who are supporting Azimio in 2022, because I don't think that your support remains. I still look at it very openly, because no one is a candidate so far. Raila likes history, and Raila thrives on history. What is the voters that thrives on history? And if you look at the 75% of the voters registered are youth, they don't understand Raila's main strong character. You talk about enigma. When you tell these young people enigma, what is enigma of politics for them? They don't know what Nyayo House is. They don't understand so much of those stories that Jaramogi sacrificed for Kenyatta. They want to understand how can they thrive in sports, in arts, in music, in technology. Yes. So I'm trying to say that the main thing I'm discussing here, it is a challenge of Raila again, appealing to the bigger bunch of his voters. And then the problem with the Kalonzo is this. Kalonzo is not someone who is a go-getter. And let's talk about numbers here. Since William Ruto won the election, Raila came with Mandamano, which kind of destabilized William Ruto a little bit politically, isn't it? What does the missile Kalonzo came up with? Kalonzo is somebody who, the day, if I was Kalonzo Musyoka, the day Raila Odinga's mouth slipped in Oburu Odinga's birthday in Bondo,
That's it.
when he said, we'll support you in 2027, I could have left there in a convoy. I could have traversed the whole of Nyanza that very day, saying, I've been handed over the mantle, and I would have done a big rally in Kisumu.
Is that what it is?
No, excuse me. With the big rally in Kisumu and the big one in Nairobi, then I have homecoming ceremony in Sekuru as the next exactly. Raila could have sat back and said, what's happening? In strategy, there's something we call speed and surprise.
That's it.
Take the speed, surprise the opponent.
Yes.
And it goes. So that's what I'm trying to say is that according to me,
yes,
the sitting back is a problem. Then you ask the question that, what does that mean to Kalonzo? Then Kalonzo has to make up his mind now. Does he want to be in the ballot, or he wants to be in the ballot if? And then last question I'm going to ask, which I'm setting myself is,
yes,
let me tell you something interesting, Azimio. Azimio is not at crossroad today. The more the people mentioning they want to become the candidate, the better. When Kalonzo says, I'm running, he's canvassing his home base, isn't it? And then Raila says, I'm running, he's also canvassing his home base. I'm waiting for a third, fourth, fifth person, sixth person, seventh, 10th, isn't it? So that we shall have like 10 people who want Azimio ticket. If Azimio ticket is not needed by only one person, not attractive enough, we need a ticket which is highly contested. The only one you cannot contest is the one of William Ruto. Just like, for example, you can see in the US there, the one of Biden, no one is contesting. But of course, he might be beaten by the other guy, you understand? So I'm trying to say in clear that the more people coming looking for Azimio ticket, the better. I want to challenge Martha Karua also to start looking for this ticket. I'll challenge Kioni to come for this ticket. I'll try to challenge, for example, Joho come for this ticket. I'll challenge all the people who wants to become in Azimio to start to canvass their voter base. So the more they bring to the table, then they can divide. But let us not wait until somebody has gone very far then tell them. Lastly, numbers make sense. Simba, you are as good as your last assignment. Even, you know, they relate with a woman. It's the same way politics works. You know, seduction for women is the same as seduction for politics. If you performed well with your wife last night, that's what she knows. If you do something badly this tonight, tomorrow you look very badly. Kalonzo's last performance was that he got 950,000 votes. Raila got 6.9 million votes. So which one do you need to add to the other? You may actually be more interested to add 950 to 6.9 than 6.9 into 950.
That's it. That was my next premise. Yes. And it's a good thing that Prof is introduced it. Sure. I mean, if Kalonzo said it right there, saying, what if I perform as bad as I performed in my last assignment? Give me 900,000.
Let me tell you.
As Edward, give me 900,000. Then I'm very important in any election.
Exactly.
That's almost 1 million votes, and he knows very well. Give me 900,000.
And he can get more than that. Kalonzo can get, he can get, with the Kamba numbers, he can get about 2 million.
Yes.
Yeah. However, now, I just want to point out, because, you know, earlier the first topic was more of UDA and the challenges yet they're in the government, but we see an opposition here which is darkness. There is no future in the opposition. There is no future.
No, I'm there, come on.
Yeah. No, you're there. Fine. Fair enough. There. At least. But I can tell you there is no future in the opposition.
Would you say that?
Because, yes. Because as long as Raila is there, he will always be the candidate. Like the way he said, there is no democracy, there is no discussion, and there is no debate. As long as Raila is alive, and God keep his soul alive.
Edward, would you say
he will not give it to Kalonzo Musyoka.
Would you say that substantively?
100%. Look, let me ask you.
Yes.
Let me take you back. And I don't like history, but this is current history. This is current history. A year ago. This is our last bullet.
That's it.
The number 5 is our number. We are going to win it. Raila Odinga, why you people, even UDA had a running day that time saying this guy has lost once, he's lost twice, he's lost thrice, he's lost 4 times, now he's going to lose the 5th. But he was saying, and his team was saying, that Raila will win because this is number 5, this one he must win. He did not win. So therefore, there is a more high chance that they will say that again when it comes to the nomination of the Azimio presidency. And I just want to tell, and I like what my brother said, Kalonzo you've lost an opportunity, but it's not all lost. Indeed, the day Raila Odinga said that he would support you, if I was you, I would have come out with a convoy, go to KICC, have a road trip all over, so that Raila doesn't go against that. Because that's the only way you can hold Raila Odinga accountable, because he said live. But now when time has gone, as you can see now, we are floating again. Kalonzo is still waiting. Going by the statement given by the Wiper leaders, you see again now he's floating. So Kalonzo amuka. Smell the coffee. If you want your leadership, start running now.
But Edward,
don't wait. And we also know that Uhuru Kenyatta is backing you for 2027. There are those rumors as well, because it's like a pact that was signed. You remember the code they signed, they agreed that the next election, whether you win or lose, Kalonzo is going to be the candidate. But Kalonzo is a gentleman, and like he said, he's a gentleman. So he said Raila, and he was convinced by Uhuru. Right now we are fighting a hustler dynasty competition. And there's no way Kalonzo would have had that muscle to galvanize. But please, Kalonzo, don't waste that opportunity. Can you pay media or pay people a higher consultant communication to replay that clip of Raila Odinga saying that you're supposed to be the candidate of 2027.
And then go back on
and
the
then go back on the road show, start campaigning early, do it like William Samoei Ruto, go around the country, you know, tanga, like William Ruto, and that way you'll stand a better chance. But if you sit and wait, Kalonzo Musyoka, I can tell you Raila Amolo Odinga will be the candidate for Azimio if it holds together in 2027.
Which is what I wanted to ask you, and take a minute to answer that particular question, Edward. I mean, if you look at the support base for Raila Amolo Odinga right now, and if you look at the coalitions that sort of give him the strength to go into any general election, is there a general sense of, oh man, we are tired with this one, could we get a change? And if that, is that what the Wiper leaders are reading into this? They're saying, well, man, you can't keep on trying forever. I mean, just give us a change. Is that what it is?
It is what it is. And indeed, people feel that they need a change. You know, for over 30 years, people have supported one candidate, especially like Luo Nyanza. We've never seen any other candidate. I challenge Luo Nyanza today to do what did Inyoro. I challenge 15 MPs in ODM to come up and say someone in ODM is suitable for the presidency. They would not live to see tomorrow. That is the thing. And that suppression of the people of Luo Nyanza with one leadership all along has kept them down there. Has kept them down there and controlled. Therefore, I believe there are young people in Luo Nyanza. Look at the other day, one character of P.S. Omolo, competent leader. William Samoei Ruto is one leader that is not very tribalist like before. Because in most cases, almost all the presidents who come in place have the PS who comes from their region, isn't it? But for the first time, William Samoei Ruto, and we commend you for that, you chose a person who comes from Luo Nyanza, the opposition stronghold, to be your PS. Indeed, that's the future. Where Omolo stands and the young people, where they stand, this is the future. And I remember Prof also said that he's looking into this seriously. We tell him, go for it, go for it. It's high time that Luo Nyanza now opens up its leadership and opens up for young people. You know, there are young people all over from Luo Nyanza, even here, the MCAs, like in Nairobi County, there are those MCAs who are competent. Let's give the youth an opportunity to lead the country so that the future can be secure.
But just address this one, gentlemen, before we move on to the next one then. I mean, I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked again, Edward. That, well, it looks as if, after you read all these statements of Kalonzo Musyoka, I'll be stupid again to support Raila Amolo Odinga. I'll never support Raila Amolo Odinga again. It's my time. Even at the point of refusing to go for an interview, to be selected to be the running mate for Raila Amolo Odinga. You sort of feel that Kalonzo Musyoka has reached the end of it, especially along this narrative for support Raila Amolo Odinga. You sort of feel that in 2027, even if he's not supported in that coalition, he's going to go at it by himself. Which is why I ask you guys this question, and then probably you can read into it. I mean, with the low turnout that we saw in the central part of the country in the 2022 elections, and the margin of that win, Raila Amolo Odinga would not be happy that now, where he would generally get his votes from, all those votes are not going to come. RUTO will not be happy that with a strong competitor like Raila Amolo Odinga, who's again going to be very close to the numbers that again he got in 2022, that all of a sudden what he would have got has again been taken by one Kalonzo Musyoka. Is that what Kalonzo Musyoka knows? Is going to be the decider in 2027? Is that what he wants? And he knows very well that even if it scores as badly as he can, like Prof said, the 900,000, that is enough to force this country into a runoff.
I'll take you back to Kalonzo Musyoka does not seem to be such a serious candidate. Going by the history, he's always supported other candidates. And I would want to see an election where Kalonzo Musyoka, from the beginning, and stands up and says, I'm fit, I'm competent enough to be the president of this country.
He's saying it now.
We've seen him say that before, but he's always fallen back on his word. And you see, and if there's any community that is loyal to their candidate or to their de facto leader, will be the Kaba Nation.
Yes.
They never give up. They never lose hope in the man of Kalonzo Musyoka. Many other communities would have given up. You know, he always comes out as a very strong candidate. Always comes out, guns blazing, but eventually falls back and supports someone else. And Edward has already confirmed, unless Raila says Kalonzo Tosha, Kalonzo will not be in the ballot. And I agree with my colleague here. When Raila seemed to support the candidacy of Kalonzo Musyoka, he would ran with it. But he missed an opportunity. In politics, you don't get an opportunity twice. You don't get second chances. It's once you miss it, you miss it.
It's actually 2 days before Raila came to clarify what he had said. 2 good days. Yeah. In fact,
speed and surprise.
and Raila was advised, hey, you must change that.
Now.
Kalonzo Musyoka would be similar to Mwango area. You come up with a very strong campaign strategy, campaign team, and then all of a sudden you've fallen off the one.
That's up.
So I would want to see a candidacy of Kalonzo Musyoka where he says, I'm running for it, and he does that.
That's it. Pretty much. Gentlemen, away from the politics then, let's talk about what Kenyans should expect this morning, but from a very, I would say, special angle. Last Friday, the courts made a ruling on the controversial. I say controversial because of how it has taken us back and forth between the executive and the parliament and the courts shift as we wait for the ruling also on the housing levy. Well, the courts finally lifted those orders that were supposed to stop the implementation of that particular healthcare program, which again is one of those promises of one Dr. President William Ruto, on the back of what has been a back and forth between the executive and the judiciary. The question I have for you this morning is, Prof, I remember I spoke about this with Edward as well. And I asked him this question, that in whatever way it goes now, there have been talks about how majority of Kenyans now feel that the courts were sort of pushed to make this particular ruling. That you can't help it. That had it gone the other way around, then majority of Kenyans, with the executive also included, would have said, we told you. So what we've seen is this silence from the executive essentially after that ruling was made, to the point where we're now getting told the plans by the Ministry of Health to make sure that that particular proposal has been again done, submitted, so that at the end of this month, Kenyans will start to get that deduction of 2.5% out of their pay slips. Is it so hard now? It's a good thing that we have an advocate in the building this morning. Is it so hard now for any other Kenyan who's listening to sort of dissociate themselves with what we're saying last week throughout the entire of that period all the way up to that ruling? Or whichever way it goes, we will say it's got something to do with what the judiciary and the executive were sort of going on about before that particular ruling.
You know, you talk about the issue of the chilling silence of the executive. There's something that I once told people that always be careful about what you wish, because actually you can be given. So they were wishing that they get this node to continue, and I'm sure maybe Edward's going to be unhappy with my comments here, but I know that the Kenya Kwanza government is very clueless when it comes to the execution of what they need to do. And when they are now getting this node,
yes,
you wait and see, because we are being told by February, we shall see this reflect in our pay slips, but you might not see for those who have it. Me, I don't have it. But I'm saying for those who have pay slips,
yes,
you see that this might not come, because I believe that Kenya Kwanza has a very interesting narrative about everything else.
Yes.
And I call it Kula Kwanza narrative. Kula Kwanza narrative starts by saying that the economy is very bad. This is a depopulated economy. It cannot work. But if you look at the truth of the matter, you realize that William RUTO has changed his official presidential car 5 times. I heard as a young boy that you are changing cars like pants, which means that pants are easier to change, right? I don't think Kenyans are changing their pants faster than he's changing his car, you know. And also, if you look here, look at another thing which is very important here is that the cabinet for William RUTO lives in better housing.
Does it?
They act better, they drive better cars. Actually, they are driving more cars. Your friend Rigathi goes on 30. Mudavadi goes on 15. All ministers goes on 7 each. PSS 5 each. So they are doing much better than the economy.
Does it?
It means let's eat Kwanza. And then the other narrative which is also coming, look at all these things about State House being renovated, the deputy president's residence is being renovated, you're renovating the offices. All this money is under what I call RUTO enterprise, because why was all this innovation? Who has done research to discover that State House is inhabitable? And have we been given public participation? In fact, according to me, the facade of State House is a national monument that cannot be changed just like that. There must be public participation. This is not his bedroom. No, your house in Lavington, you can change if you want. But this is the State House, you know. You cannot just wake up and change State House the way you want. So I'm trying to say that all this is choreographed to mean that everything is held back, and for them, whatever they want, they're getting. So even if you look at this narrative, it was us who are called our chorus, and this judiciary was being called stopping them. Now they have been given a go-ahead. Why have they not made a press statement and congratulated the court for having made this decision the way they congratulated the court for having declared them presidency? So for me, I'm looking at them keeping quiet, meaning that they didn't know. I rally this to another, when you are young boys, you know, when you are young boys, sometimes you can be telling a girl, give me a date. Then they give you a date. When you go there, you start asking, say, so by the way, don't you like eating? You have nothing to tell this girl, but she's available. So we are waiting for His Excellency the President to wake up and tell us now.
Yes.
From now on, this is the way forward. But also don't celebrate too early, because there are some people who also want to go to the higher court.
Does it?
And for me, if I was in the case for healthcare insurance, I could have gone to the next level of court. The one for the house levy, the ruling is on 26th.
Does it?
Whichever way it goes, if it goes against us, we have already done the court of appeal. Already appealed in court to go for the court of appeal, because house levy is completely a draconian thing. So according to me, the executive, and I would like to advise the president, and Edward is here. One thing you need to do, there's one book called The One Thing. The one thing means look at what you can do without too much dependencies and do it. So if William RUTO wants to succeed, all his manifestos are you have to battle at court. Why don't you look within your manifesto and find that one thing that you can do without any battle with the court? You can succeed early. If not,
yes,
this battle will go up to 2027. When you finish, opposition will tell you, You never executed anything in your manifesto because, you know, you can even go to the East African Court of Justice. Look at Ahmed Nazir. We discussed this the other week. He has gone to East African Court of Justice to appeal against the Supreme Court decision to suspend him from appearing. And from there, you can even go to human rights courts in the UN. And some of us will go up to even to God after we have gone to the UN and we fail. We shall even organize a national prayer rally so that God now can stop them from doing what I think is against the country.
Yes. Edward, I want to bring you in on this. And I want you to respond on this one particularly before we move on to Dayton this morning. You know, the court said, God, we've lifted those orders that were supposed to stop the implementation of
Social Health Authority.
That's it. In fact, that's what sort of tended to anger the president. If you did listen to him at the beginning of the year, it's like, I do not understand why, if you want this country to succeed, why you would not lift such kind of an order. They went right ahead and lifted it. But on the back of that, the court, however, suspended sections mandating compulsory registration to the scheme. Now, that's what we're waiting to see. Although workers are now required then to continue deducting the 2.75% of their salaries to the new health fund. In fact, if you're going to talk about a lenient ruling, here it is. Well, you're saying, well, we lift those orders that are supposed to stop the implementation of this particular program, but we are still going to make a ruling on two particular sections. Number one, the administration of those funds, because there are fears that administration funds are going to be way bigger than the funds that are getting contributed into that particular scheme. And number two, the mandatory or compulsory registration to that particular scheme. If you look at the Data Protection Act, it essentially is very clear on these particular issues, which this particular program is breaking. So you would have expected then that the executive or, you know, the people who've been fighting the courts on this particular rulings would have come in and said, well, this is the way that we need to go. We haven't seen them. And now we do know that what is getting done in the background is to have this particular healthcare contribution effected as early as at the end of this week. So by Feb, the 2.5% is going to reflect in your paycheck.
Yes.
Edward,
let me tell you, going on to the discussion we had last week on the judiciary and the executive. Indeed, you have to remember that these are arms of government, right? And the executive actually did air certain issues which they felt they were unfair. And it's their right to air that, though it was done publicly. I'm sure they have tried to have consultations and it forced the president to come up to the open, because you remember again, sovereignty is the people, so you have to also speak to the people. And I want to tell my friend, this is also like public participation. So when you see the president, and in most cases, like recently when he was in Busia, he was actually asking the public, tuweke ama tusiweke, wangapi wana support? Unaona watu wameweka mkono juu. However, yes, that's public participation. That's public participation on that level. I know there is in fact, what my brother Ogola, professor, should be asking for is a framework, because Kenya has no public participation framework. There is no law that guides how public participation should be done. So even when he's saying public participation was not done on State House, how does he know? Because there is no framework. It was probably done, right? Anyway, my point is this. Indeed, the court has given a good ruling. And the court has been very keen on that ruling. And the ruling has come out and has supported and said the program may continue. That is positive. And like I said earlier, the arms of government, judiciary and executive are interconnected, interrelated, and they're collaborative. Wait, in the essence of division of power.
Edward, I don't want to stop you. I'm listening to your words, and I'm really trying to compare them to what you said last week. Right now, I'm listening to you, and you're saying the courts were really keen on this particular ruling. They've listened. Yes. And you're saying it's a positive ruling.
Yes.
Based on this particular program that the government wanted to implement.
Indeed.
Then why can't we come out so that we congratulate the court as executive?
Look, the ruling was on Friday.
That's it.
Sawa.
Yes.
And the president doesn't have to, if something is done right, you only complain when something is wrong. Why should you go out and praise something when it's right? When it's right, you let the water flow. You don't go out there and start saying it's right, they've done right. It's like you're going backwards. When an issue has ended, you let it end. And that's what the president has done. Because like what Professor just said,
Edward, and I don't want to jump you.
What Professor just said, and he challenged the government, which I want to dispute here clearly. He said that they don't know how to implement or they don't know how to run government. Since the president came in, CDF has been given out, county funds are going out, programs are running, isn't it? Agriculture is running, sectors are changing, things are happening. So it's a misnomer when Professor comes out here saying that the government doesn't know what it will do with this. That's a lie. Secondly, we only choose political leadership, but administratively, we have workers, civil servants, who are professionals.
They were replaced.
No, hold on. Who are professionals? No, even in look, don't, replacing is nothing here.
There's no administrative.
What we are saying is, the president is not the one who implements. It's the civil servants. The president offers guidance for policy. And the civil servants who are also Kenyan, not unless he's saying, and we should check you now, the civil servants, are you trying to say the civil servants are not competent in Kenya? They are competent.
But it's got a point, Edward, and I'm going to give you a minute before I cross over to Dylan as well. But it's got a point, because if you look at this particular ruling by the court, they were quite clear. They're saying, well, you see, parts of that particular program, you figure them out. But then you've not told us how you are going to force every other Kenyan to register on that particular program. Number two, they also said, so now you're saying that if you're not on this platform, you will not be given health care. But also the Constitution tells us as a court that every other Kenyan, the moment you become a Kenyan, health care is a right. So if you have an act that is protecting the data privacy of citizens and you're telling them, well, you gotta be here. So the implementation that Prof is saying, well, that is a problem to the government. Same case to the housing levy. They said, well, not everything is constitutional, but how you're going to implement parts of that is what you do not know.
And you see, another word, operationalization.
That's operationalization.
Just 1 minute before.
Exactly. And it's a challenge everywhere, even in the UK, even in the first world countries. Today, people are talking about these healthcare policies. Kenya is not a special country. Everything has to be done sequentially. You have to pass the law. Then the law has to come with an operationalizational mechanism and apparatus. Listen, the law has to pass. Then you come up with the operationalization. That's the work now. Once the law has passed, it is given to the Ministry of Health to operationalize. And it's all there in the law. There is nowhere the judgment says that they don't know how they're going to implement it. No, these are things you're making up. In the end of the day, NHIF has been running. Hold on. NHIF has been running. This particular thing, and I want to quote here very fast. We're going to change the cost of doing this from 500 to 300. Secondly, they're saying that this particular scheme shall cover even those people who do not have money. Because there are people in Kenya who are unemployed, who are the majority. It will cover them. It's also saying there will be emergency care for all Kenyans. The government will ensure that you can use the SHA card in any health facility, private or public or even faith-based. That is what we should be looking at. Remember, His Excellency the President gave a promise. He had a manifesto where he said he will come up with this scheme for social health coverage for all Kenyans, including the poor and the rich. Sawa. So the deductions that will take place are rightfully in place. Before, every cadre of an earner, whether you're earning 100,000 or whether you're earning 500,000 or $1 million, was paying 1,700 shillings. Is that true? Today, every cadre from 100, 200, 500, everyone is paying more. You understand? Even those who, so it's more equitable. That's why if they raise that money, like you were saying about accountability, once that money is raised, now even the poor people will be running to register for SHA so that they can be part of the scheme. And remember, it is also a constitutional right for the government to provide free and affordable health care for all Kenyans. No, look, at the expense of the previous scheme of NHIF was unequitable, whereby a person earning 10,000, 20,000 shillings was paying the same amount as a person earning or maybe someone earning 50,000 was paying 1,700 shillings, similarly to a person earning 1,000,000 shillings. Sawa. So we are saying the more you earn, the more you contribute, so that the contribution then can help those Kenyans who are unemployed and have no scheme.
So
Kenyans should be clapping for the president, because the poor Kenyans, and I remember azimio also, they had a similar scheme, but because it's not them in government, they want to fight everything.
Edward, I'm going to come back to you, and please, Shage, if you can, take 2 minutes on this, because Edward is going to listen to the notes essentially about that particular ruling that was made on Friday, like what the concerns were, concerns that still linger currently as we speak. Shage, I asked the question that we do know very well that there's an impending meeting, if it's going to happen, between the judiciary and the executive. That matter has not been rested. So you would have expected then that there would have been a comment about this particular ruling, but it's already a matter out of court. You would have said whatever it is that you wanted to say about it, the executive, since you had a big problem with it. Could have been in order for any other member of the executive to come in and say, well, this one we like, or there are areas that we are not happy about it yet.
This takes me back to, in response to my colleague here, what you call double standards. It's good when it fits you, and it's bad if it doesn't fit you. No, we've seen, and I'll still go back to what my colleague mentioned earlier about the independence of the judiciary and the demarcation between the executive and the judiciary. You know, we cannot have a cogent country, a country that is well gelled, if we have arms of government fighting each other. Now, however, you know, my friend tries to put words into my mouth. However, the independence of those arms of government must supersede the judiciary. If the judiciary is acting on the whims of the executive, that's a very bad precedent that we'll be setting as a country, and takes us back to the pre-2020 constitution era, where we had a president firing at whims members of the judiciary, that is judges. You'd have at 1 p.m. news, a certain judge has been fired. But with the 2010 constitution, we brought in some level of independence. Not absolute, because we don't have so far we don't have a fund. The president promised that we'll have a judiciary fund. 1 year down the line, we still do not have. He appointed 6 judges to try and please the judiciary and try to bring them to on board, as he did with the legislature. But that did not happen, because however much you want to please the Chief Justice, the other judicial officers act independently. They do not take orders from the Chief Justice. Now, we have a ruling that was delivered on last week on the social health insurance fund. We've had decisions read by the same courts on the housing levy, on other projects that have been stalled, quote unquote, as the government would want us to believe that the judiciary is stalling government projects. The question that we need to ask ourselves is, on what grounds? When the court says we are suspending this project, we are suspending this policy, we are issuing conservative orders on such an aspect that the government is probably propelling. Is it on constitutional basis? When the court says we do not want to go into the merit of whatever project the government is parties. So in fact, you know, we make we want to believe that the judiciary is fighting the government, but when you go to court, those are parties. It's the petitioner and the respondents. So if the respondents wants certain orders may be lifted, it is not the judiciary does not issue orders against the government. It is against or for practice within a suit. Now, when the judiciary calls certain aspects unconstitutional, we cannot then go back and now brand the judiciary as against the government. And then when the same judiciary issues orders that are pro parties, for instance, the government on the social health insurance fund, Justice Kiage, Nyamwea, and Lady Justice, when they issued orders that are primarily, to a certain extent, pro the government, then we have the same executive quiet. They are happy. Yes. They are happy with the other day, when the Supreme Court issued. The Supreme Court issued a declaration that this government was validly elected. Everybody went home happy. They did not say that the judiciary is now. Even if the judiciary used some words that were not very politically correct, hot air and stuff. But the executive was happy. People allied to the executive were happy. But now when the government, when the same judiciary issues orders that are not pleasant to them, they now start branding the judiciary as, it's holding brief for the opposition. We must, Kenyans must, we as Kenyans, we must dispel from the notion that everybody is against us. You must perform. If you don't perform,
30 seconds. By
the way, we gotta step out. We gotta step out, Edward. But guess what? You know what? I'll call you Monday, guys, because on the 26th we do need to talk about how they're going to make a ruling on the second one as well, the housing levy. Now, Edward, if you may, Prof, I am the one with the right to speak. My director is going to kick us out. I'm the one with the right. I'm going to be very brief. We gotta step out, Prof. I'm the only one with the right to speak. Can you take 10 seconds? Because if you speak, I won't speak. 10 seconds it is then, Prof.
The point here is that judiciary could have told the executive, mtoto malilia wembe mpe. Because I believe the ineffectiveness of Kenya Kwanza is going to show in the implementation. Why I'm trying to say, we are exporting nurses while we want universal health coverage by making more people get treated. I see this inconsistency in that thing. And I tell you, the inconsistency in Kenya Kwanza is really shocking. Because you are exporting nurses to Saudi Arabia, you are asking us to pay for more health care, then you can access it, and the patient to population, physician to population should be 2.5 to 1,000. That is the WHO standard. Ours here is one physician to 100,000 population, yet you are sending them abroad. That is the most unpatriotic thing the president is doing to us. In fact, it should be checked whether he's a Kenyan if he's doing that. We gotta step it up. Gentlemen, we gotta end it there. We gotta end it there. Edward, we gotta end it there. Edward, we gotta end it there. Edward, we gotta end it there. We gotta end it there. Here's the thing. For those who are wondering what the court said about that particular order, they said, if indeed this is lifted, we as a country, we shall be presenting real and present danger to the health rights of countless citizens. Therefore, we lift that order that was supposed to stop the implementation of that particular government agenda. Shift, to be exact. So, what you expect from next month, 2.75% is going to be taken out of your paycheck. And on the 26th of this month, by the way, guess what? The next one is coming. The housing levy. Which way is it gonna go? I'll call this gentleman here so we can talk about it. Prof, thank you very much. Edward, always a pleasure to have you around. Dedan, welcome, man. This is Lookuptv. Guess what? Take them online at Lookuptv across all your social media platforms. My name is Simba Kiage. Good morning. Goodbye.